Hi, Jules here, and today I'm joined by Matt Nunn, the founder of Nunn Media, the largest independent advertising agency in Australia. And he's someone who's built an incredible business from the ground up. And he's got a wealth of insight into growth, leadership, and what it really takes to succeed. So Matt, thank you for joining me. Welcome.
Well, thanks for that introduction. I'm not sure I can fulfill all that, but I'll try.
Cool. Now, Matt, I wanted to start back when you were younger. Now, I know you played basketball. I think you started around the age of 10, and then you got a scholarship and you went to the States. But you didn't stay at the States. What happened there? Why did you come back?
I was there for about a year, I think. But I went to a small school and I had some very unusual experiences there, which I think were good in some ways, but bad in others. But the situation wasn't great from the school standpoint. But I stayed there for a year, and I just thought at that particular time, just from a basketball point of view, and probably more a personal point of view, it probably wasn't the right situation. So I came back to Australia.
Okay. And when you came back, though, you didn't continue with basketball at the same level. Isn't that around the time when you went to... I know you still played for the minors, I think it was, but then you started working for, like, in marketing. How did that come about?
Well, I did play, but I went back to school and got my degree. So I, similar to you, I've got a Bachelor of Education in Physical Education. So that's something that I really love, teaching kids physical education, so that was always my dream job. So I finished that course, but then literally as I was about to graduate, given that I played basketball for Ballarat and the major sponsor was Win Television, and I knew everybody in town, the general manager literally knocked on my door and said, listen, you know everybody, how about you sell them advertising? And at the time I think a PE teacher made $25,000 a year.
It wasn't a lot.
Wasn't a lot. And then this job paid $40,000 a year, and I got a car and bonuses and incentives. So I thought, why wouldn't I give it a go? I didn't know what I was doing, but so I took the job.
Okay. And how long were you in advertising before you decided to start your own company? And what was it that prompted you to go, I'm going to go on my own, I'm going to do this?
Yeah. Well, I worked for Win Television in Ballarat and did pretty well. And I do remember my first day, I literally rocked up to work and they gave me the keys to the car, a client list and a budget. And they said, now go and get your budget. That was my training. So I literally took it upon myself to read every piece of literature, every book that I possibly could to understand what the hell I was trying to do. So I caught on pretty fast, and then I went to the Melbourne office, and then I went to GTV9, Channel 9 in Melbourne. And once again, I did pretty well as a salesperson there, selling advertising. And at that particular time, we had the Today Show and Midday with Mike Walsh and what have you, and they rated more than primetime programs do now. So literally, if you threw some ads on TV, it literally was a gold mine for the advertisers most of the time. But after about 2 or 3 years, I was a little bit bored. I wasn't challenged by it. So I was offered by one of my clients who was a media agency to literally go into business with him, work with him for a year, and then, if it all worked out, be a partner within the business. So I thought that sounds like a challenge. So I went with it. So I left Channel 9, went there, and after probably about 12, 18 months, I thought, you know what? I don't think I want to be partners with anybody. I want to do it myself for different reasons. So I literally, after working with him for a couple of years, I literally went on my own. And at that particular stage, it was really hard to get accreditation because what you had to do financially was to guarantee the debt of your clients. So if your clients didn't pay you, and you're dealing in hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, you had to basically prove that you could pay the bill. And that was the accreditation scheme back in those days. So I think I begged, borrowed and steal, put my house on the line, put everything on the line just to get accreditation. So at the stage, I think I was the youngest person ever to get accreditation, but literally it was a bit of a struggle to get there. So I took a few risks, and that's kind of how I got started in my own business. which was nearly 25 years ago.
Wow. And would you say that was the biggest challenge you faced going out on your own? Was the cash flow, essentially?
I think that was an easier challenge because I didn't have very many commitments. I don't think I had any, didn't have any kids at that stage and didn't have a whole lot of commitments. So I didn't think that was a big challenge necessarily. But probably the biggest challenge, if that's the question, was probably about 8 years down the track, and I developed the business. It was very profitable. We had some good clients. Probably had about eight or ten staff at the time, and our biggest client was Clive Peters. Who were, it was a great family business and what have you, and they expanded, and they'd had some controversy within the business from an employee who stole money. But what had actually happened is the client, unbeknownst to me, went into liquidation and what have you. And in our business, but going back to the accreditation, we got audited every 12 months. And at that audit, you had to prove your financial viability. So I think this was about on June the 15th, literally, and the audit is at June 30. And this client's gone under owing me a couple of $1 million. So literally, I had 14 days to get my shit together to work out how I could find a solution to the problem. And what made matters a little bit worse, I was in the middle of building a house. I had all my money tied up in a new house. So I didn't have liquidity necessarily to cover. So I had to quickly find an investor to come into the business as a minority shareholder. But I think it was about on the 21st, 22nd, and at that stage I was doing triathlons. And I actually, for 6 months, the swim coach, Johnny Van, was saying, you're weak, why are you stopping? And I had this really bad pain in my stomach, and every month I'd go to the doctor and they'd give me antibiotics. And they said, we don't know what it is, but just take this. Anyway, it turns out I had appendicitis for 6 months. And literally on the 20th or 21st of June, my appendix burst.
Oh, no.
So it was a bit of a situation where, I had to find an investor. 14 days, appendix burst, I'm in hospital, emergency surgery. And anyway, so I was in touch with a couple of people, friends of mine, and they introduced me to and organised a meeting to go and meet Tony Gandel, whose family had investment within Chadstone and various other things. And literally I got out of hospital, and it was a few days before the end of June. I went home, put on a suit, put on a white shirt, and then I was flying to the meeting, and then I looked down and I had blood oozing out of, and it was all over the white shirt. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't go to a meeting so I turned back around, and to the quick thinking of my wife, she grabbed a certain hygiene product and slapped it on my wound, and then I went off to the meeting, and the rest was history. We had an investment from Tony, and it sort of covered our accreditation worries at that time, and we've been sort of best friends ever since. So it was a really good sort of outcome. So I think some things are supposed to happen in life, and that was just one of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Okay, so my next question was going to be, can you tell me a moment when everything felt like it was falling apart? But I reckon that's got to be it.
That's probably it.
Yeah. And do you, in terms of that, I mean, even on a day-to-day basis, how do you handle stress? Is there something mantras or self-talk? Is there some way you help yourself get through that if you've got any worries or?
Well, I think as you get, particularly with me, as I got older, when I was younger, I was very excitable when good things happened, but when bad things happened, I'd be down, and I sort of was very up and down. And I think after a while, you sort of clone yourself not to be too high or too low, and just have sort of a moderate middle ground. So from a stress standpoint, I think I handle stress really well. So I'm not the type of person that stresses out about things, or if I do, it's probably something pretty major. So it's probably just the experience and the confidence from decision making that's happened previous. And at the end of the day, you got 2 arms and 2 legs, and if you've still got them and you're still healthy, things aren't too bad. So I kind of put things in perspective a fair bit too. And a lot of people who do get stressed, I do tell them that, and they don't like it. But that's how I think of it anyway.
Yeah, and you're very true, and I hear myself telling my kids the same thing. But then when James, my husband, tells me that, I'm like, "Oh, come on,
Yeah.
the support."
Yeah.
But
No.
you're very right. It's all about perspective, and we're very, very blessed. So
Yeah.
now I know that you are still coaching. Pardon me. I know that you're still coaching out at Knox. I'm wondering, are there any lessons that have transferred from you as a coach to you in the business world and vice versa, between basketball and running a business?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I think for people that have played competitive sport, and I like to employ people that have, because, as a sports person, you've got to be disciplined with your training. You've got to understand how to prioritize things. And I think, and resilience, and confidence, so you get to learn all these things within the game with sport, particularly the higher you go, the more priorities and resilience sort of happen, and, just injury. And, I've got a couple of boys that are sort of higher level athletes in college and basketball out here, and, they've had injuries and what have you. And once again, I think you've got to put it in perspective, but you, as a sports person, I think you're tailor-made to be a good business person in a lot of ways. Mm. But then I think equally, you can, from a business standpoint, I think you can add a lot of structure and process and goal setting, where athletes notoriously probably aren't good at that. So I think that's where I've been able to structure process and systems and put them into basketball, with my coaching. So yeah, so equally I think, one world affects the other and vice versa.
Do you think that persistence and resilience can be taught though, or is that something that's just innate in someone?
Interesting question. Mm. I mean, I think it can be, but I think the problem we have, or problem parents have these days, we protect them too much. Mm. So from a sporting standpoint, every parent wants little Johnny to make the team and little Johnny to kick the goal or bounce the ball or whatever it is, to win the race, and the reality is that's not how the world works. People win, people lose, people get the job, people get fired, people make teams, people are the stars, people are role players. So I think we set kids up in life when we try to protect them, and they have to experience failure. Mm. And from failure they learn or don't learn the lesson, so next time they're in that situation they can potentially succeed. So for me that's probably where it's at.
And do you think you were good at that? Did you build on your failures? Did you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that relates back to your question about stress. Mm. Given that there's not too much I haven't seen, I can calmly think if something may raise somebody at 80%, it might raise me at 20%, because I've been there before, and I know I'm not going to die, and I know that I'm confident in my decision making to make the right decision. Doesn't always work out that way, but I think that's the mindset that I have.
Yeah. In terms of basketball and business, what do you think is more important, skill or mindset?
Well, both. And talent. You can put talent in there as well. I know a lot of kids or players that are extremely talented but don't have the right mindset or the right application. Whereas I've seen probably more kids that probably don't have the skill or the talent, who really want it, who really have that mindset to succeed, that do succeed to a certain level. But it definitely is a strong combination of both. Without skill, and you have the right mindset, you probably don't make the team. With a high level of skill and talent, you probably make the team, but you don't live up to your potential.
Yeah. So if you were employing for your business, is there one of those that you prioritise? Is there something you look for, an attribute that you look for in someone, or even, I mean, I guess in coaching as well, but particularly in business, is there some sort of attribute you look for in a candidate?
Well, this is a little. I'm not in charge of that. They kicked me out of there.
When you were, what about when you were?
But used to love employing country people where I'm from, because I think their values and standards and upbringing is a lot different, potentially, not than all people in the metro areas, but it definitely has a humble sort of beginning and a grounding to it. So in business, definitely, and as far as employees, skill and talent or knowledge can be learnt.
Yep.
So you can teach that, but you can't teach people, some of the other things of showing up on time and being respectful and talking the right way to people and those type of things. So they're probably things that I like. I like good people, and if you're not a good person, like, life's too short to be involved with people that aren't good people.
Yeah, very true. So tell me, because you started this business from scratch, this is your baby, and you built it into something that's so hugely successful. What is the secret to building something and scaling it to such a huge level?
That's, it's obviously a lot of things. From a planning point of view, I never would have thought when I started the business that I would be perhaps or grow it to where it is right now. But I think it goes back to those things, probably from a sporting standpoint, resilience. Like, I think I'm very stubborn and resilient. So if I fail, it probably makes me more motivated to want to succeed.
Yep. And,
I've learnt from that, and I don't like to lose, and it eats at me. So, if I want to do something or things, or if I haven't succeeded in something, I won't sleep. So I will literally, through my head, come up with ways of how I can put myself in a better position, or how I can succeed or win, or whatever it is. So that's probably one out of about 20 different things. But I think also you've got to be a people person as well. Like, I feel like people, work better, respond better when people around them are good to them. So with staff and what have you, I think it's important to have guidelines and culture and rules and what have you, whether it's in business or in sport. But at the end of the day, you've got to be a good person, and you've got to be, I guess, motivated enough to be walking forward.
A lot of previous guests have mentioned the importance of mentors, and I know you mentioned Tony Gandel. Was he a mentor to you, or how important were mentors?
Yeah, 100%. And that's another thing, when you own a business, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're trying to grow and build a business, it's actually a lonely world, because a lot of people don't understand. It's a different mentality, and you don't want to talk to your competitors if you're in that field.
Yep.
So it's very lonely. So a lot of decision making you make is probably by yourself. So, from a mentor standpoint with Tony, it was really good, because when he came into the business, like, I felt like I had a big brother behind me, and he gave me a lot of confidence to think, well, you could be this and you could be that, and why wouldn't you be able to have 100 employees or 200 employees or $100 million worth of billings or 500. So he gave me that sort of confidence to think, well, you know what, that's right, well, why can't I do that? And I think from a mentoring standpoint, that probably really gave me the edge that, perhaps I can do it. And then confidence, things happen, and you build, and you learn, and you get better at things. So mentoring definitely, I think, is a very important part of it.
Yeah. What about goal setting? When you first started out, or even when you first got into basketball or then started your own business, did you set goals for yourself of where you wanted to go?
I did, loosely, but I nobody taught me how to do that. I think I was I'm very driven. So I remember when I had my first job, I had a goal, I wanted to make $100,000. That was my first goal. And then I wanted to make $1 million. And then so it sort of, I guess, progressed in my mind, but then I got probably smarter at business planning and then sort of set goals for the business and KPIs that lathered underneath that and metrics that sort of funneled in there. So I think that system and process, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs, loosely speaking, probably don't have that system. They've got the ideas and the drive, but they don't have the system and the process. And that was probably me. And I think I got better at that as time went on. And I think, now it's sort of just a way of life to map things out, whether it's for a basketball team or a business, what you're trying to achieve and what that means to the team and how do I bring the team along and what KPIs will I need to fulfill to get there. So I think that's just a way of life now.
Yeah. What's one habit or mindset shift that's been an absolute game changer for you?
Ooh, interesting. I think, I used to listen to a guy who was he was in prison for 10 years or 15 years or something like that. And he basically went in there as a drug dealer and came out of there sort of as a mindset guy. And basically what I took from it was self-reflection. And he's very crude in his language and what have you, but literally, pardon the French, don't be weak. Look at you're making excuses for yourself. Reflect that you're not good enough, accept that, and what are you going to do about it? Instead of sort of whining and whinging about, why you haven't got this or why you haven't done that or why you didn't win or why you didn't, whatever it might be. So it's basically to take the responsibility and the action to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I know you're a fairly disciplined individual. Can you share your daily routine, what that looks like from getting up in the morning and how you see that contributes to your effectiveness?
Well, I don't know whether it contributes to my effectiveness, but it wears me out.
Sure it does.
I'm an early riser, so I get up about 4:30 and generally I'll walk for about an hour and a half and then I have the personal trainer come over and I lift for an hour, 6 days a week. And then I have a cryotherapy before I lift, then I lift, and then I have a sauna. So I kind of, the longevity, is interesting to me. I'm not fanatical necessarily about it as some other people that we both know. But definitely follow a regime. And I've got a hyperbaric chamber as well that I'm starting in the next week or so. So yeah.
Curious. I'm curious about the hyperbaric. I've never tried it, so I'm like,
yeah. Well,
it's amazing.
I read a lot of the research papers, and when I get to the conclusions of the findings, I sort of weigh up what I do. So I kind of loosely base it on that.
And you don't think that adds to how effective you are in the office or anything? Surely.
Listen, I'm not sure about that, but I think just from a personal point of view, for me, it's kind of like the calm before the storm.
Yeah. Okay.
Like for me and the reason I walk at 4:30 is because I don't see anybody, I don't hear anybody. It's just me and the dog, and it's pitch black. So for me, it's probably more like a mental sanctuary for just to get clarity of everything that's happening in my life. So it's kind of, I would probably say it's my time. And I just literally will walk for an hour and a half and I forget that I'm walking a lot of the time. So
yeah. Oh, awesome. Do you have a favourite saying or mantra that guides you or that you live by?
I'll probably, if you ask my staff, they'll probably say, yes, I've got a lot. What do I say? Well, the one thing is I hate excuses. So, they would say, so if we can put man on the moon, we can do whatever it is, the task. So, I think people are too easy to make, and I think excuses are a weakness. It shows the weakness of the mind. So I try not to let that in on anything. So, and the thing is, if you put your mind to it, you can pretty much do anything. And probably the only other one is, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And, it's probably true in life as well.
Absolutely. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given in sport or business?
You don't ask, you don't receive.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But, that and along with, I guess hard work pays off. And I think, once again, going back to sporting people, if they've had a life at a young age where they've understand the habits of hard work and progression and getting better, I think that there is kind of the best lesson in life. And that's where sport, I think, is a great mentor for people to understand what life is about.
How do you personally define success today, and how has that changed over time?
I think success for me is, I think from a business standpoint, there's a fire, and it's that competitiveness to want to win. So in everything that you do, in every little project, you feel that fire burning, and it's like, how can I do this? What do I need to do? Like thinking through how I can sort of accomplish things, and then accomplishing it to me, is success. But then from a coaching standpoint, success to me is, and at Knox, is winning as well. But it's also the development of people off the court and on the court. And I think at Knox, I've been the only coach to play younger kids, give them opportunity, and they've all excelled. So we've probably sent at Knox what have we got, 5, 6, 7 or 8 junior players into the US college system, and what have you. So, that to me, alongside winning in sport, just mentoring people or kids off the court and what have you is something that I get a lot of satisfaction from.
Nice. I spoke to Emma Murray recently, and she quoted Michael Jordan's coach and how he really taught Michael Jordan about mindfulness, and how he said that was more important than even the skills. If he could get him in the right headspace, then he would be able to achieve more than he could possibly teach him skill-wise. Do you embrace any of that? Do you teach mindfulness or that kind of mental training for your athletes or your employees?
I don't, but actually it's on my agenda this year. I mean, we're not a high budget NBL team from that standpoint, but definitely what I see is that trying to maximise or trying to enable somebody to get be the best version of them. And I mean, Michael Jordan was also the best athlete in the world. So, even if he didn't have his mindset right, he was probably still the best player in the world. But I think confidence, is probably the biggest thing with kids and basketball players and in every sport. And you could have a player that is a really good player that's not playing confidently. So I think as a coach, it's your job to bring that out, and that requires a personal touch, depending on the person. So that's something that I do personally with players, because I know how important confidence is to them. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So what's one piece of advice you would give to young people these days wanting to get into business or start their own? Or it might even be something you tell your children.
I would say probably one of the biggest things is don't quit. Yep. When the going gets tough, all right, that's when the tough get going. And never quit. I mean, it's okay if you give it your best shot and it doesn't work out. Okay, it doesn't work out. But if you quit at something, I think that's a weakness, and therefore I go back to making excuses. Well, I couldn't do that because of this, and this. Whereas, perhaps you weren't good enough to do it. But what are you prepared to do to be better? or get better. So that's probably the biggest thing is if you've got the drive for it, just don't quit. Just keep going. It'll eventually work out. It's a game of percentages. And today's younger generation, I don't think they're equipped for it. But if you are, I think, as a young entrepreneurs can make a lot of money, be successful very fast, because a lot of the next generation are not that way. They want to, give up early. They want to switch this and switch that, or this job doesn't work. I'm going to go to this job, or this, team and this team, versus actually reflecting in the mirror and saying, you know what, I'm just not good enough at the moment, and this is what I'm going to do to get better, and put the responsibility back on yourself. And I think that's probably, and it's okay not to be the best, but you want to be the best version of you. And excuses and coming up with reasons why you can't do it, I just do not correlate to that way of thinking at all. And I think if I could pass that on to anybody, that would probably be the message.
Yeah. AI is here and it's coming, it's changing the landscape. What's that going to look like for your business? Are you reinventing to kind of...
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I enjoy is not being a Blockbuster and a Kodak, is that we're about 50% through a major tech development. We're a pioneer. I think it'll be the first in the industry, definitely from an Australian point of view, and probably the world, in that we're using AI. We're developing a system, a database, a data-led solution for clients, which basically, in the Australian market, we have about 20 million profiles. We can, feed first-party data, so, campaign results, sales results, the weather, brand health tracking, all together, and then we can target people in different environments. We can find these people, but not only that, we can use that as predictive modelling and extract that through AI, that data. So it's pretty powerful to understand within a second, which is something that might take normally a week or 2 weeks or longer. Why are sales down? What are the best mediums to increase my sales by 10% over the next 12 months? Understanding the last 3 years' results, campaigns, creative, profiles, target audience, etc., etc. So we think it's going to be revolutionary in our industry. So we're probably about perhaps 3 or 4 months off. We should have a prototype up fairly soon. We're really embracing it. And some of the tools that are available now, like there's a tool called Utari, UTARI, .ai, and it's not well publicised, but it's unbelievable.
What does it do?
Literally, well, it's an LLM, so it's like a chat GPT, except it's more agent mode, so it's more detailed in its responses. But interestingly, I prompted it on an example call funnel strategy the other day, and the prompt was quite detailed, but it only took me probably 2 or 3 minutes, and it built literally everything that you could ever imagine, including the landing pages, the coding, the creative, the scripting, everything within about 3 or 4 minutes. Now that's something that people in the market might charge, particularly the US market, $20,000 for. Wow. And I had it completed, done in minutes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think if you're smart and you're young, like literally you can jump tall buildings right now as an entrepreneur.
Wow. Well, so it feels a little daunting, but at the same time it could be so exciting. So I think you're right. I think it's embrace it all, stay fearful.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Wow. Who is someone you believe truly embodies success, like either through courage, creativity, or possibility, whatever it may be? And why do you think them? Why have you chosen them? Why do they inspire you?
It's an interesting question. Probably Muhammad Ali. You know, like he was courageous, but he had a lot of charisma as well. But he was very brave. I know that he forgo his world heavyweight title, and wasn't allowed to box when he didn't go to Vietnam. So he was a man of his principles, whatever they were. And then also, obviously, the racism and the social injustice within his community and what have you. He was sort of a mentor to many people to stand up for what they believe in. So for me, he was the element of courage and resilience and charisma. For him, that's probably, you know, the person that, you know, to me, embodies courage.
Awesome. Well, Matt, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. It's just been awesome to hear you speak and share your wisdom on building a business. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
No worries. Great to join you.
Cheers. Thanks, Matt.